Hey guys, tonight we walk the muddy streets of a town drowning in silver and sin. A place where the clang of a player piano from a saloon never quite drowns out the click of a gun hammer being cocked in a dark alley. The air here doesn't smell like sagebrush and pine. It smells of sour whiskey, sweat, and the metallic tang of fresh dug ore. Fortunes are made with the turn of a card, and lives are ended for less. This is the kind of town that eats good men for breakfast, and trust me when I tell you, you probably won't survive this ride with your soul intact. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I love seeing where in the world these stories land. So go on and drop your location and local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The tin star on your chest is a magnet for trouble and a repellent for friendship. You feel its weight not in the ounce of cheap metal, but in the yards of empty space that surround you as you walk your evening patrol. This is Argenta, a town born from a silver strike so rich they say the devil himself salted the mountain with it. It's a boom town, a raw, open wound of greed and ambition, and you are the lone stitch trying to hold it together. Your boots make a slow, rhythmic splash in the mud and grime of the main street. The sputtering sewer gas lamps, a modern marvel. The town council is so proud of, cast a harsh, sickly yellow light on the scene, making the false front buildings look like the painted faces of grinning skulls. From the swinging doors of the saloons, 4 of them on this street alone, spills the sound of laughter, shouting, and the tinny, frantic notes of a piano. It is the sound of a town trying to drink and gamble away the darkness that clings to its very foundations. You are Marshal Elias Thorne, the law. But here in Argenta, the law is a suggestion, not a command. The real power resides in the largest of the saloons, the Silver Serpent, a place owned by a man named Silas Kane. He is the one who truly runs this town. You are just the man they pay to haul away the bodies. The miners, covered in the gray dust of the deep earth, give you a wide berth, their eyes avoiding yours. The gamblers, in their fine but dusty coats, offer a curt, dismissive nod. Even the so-called respectable folk, the shopkeepers and the banker look at you with a nervous tension. They need you to stop the stray bullets from coming through their windows, but they fear the true order your badge represents. You are a necessary evil, a walking symbol that their good fortune is built on a bedrock of violence and chaos. You are utterly, profoundly alone, and you have cultivated that loneliness into a shield. You pass the assayer's office, the church with its boarded-up windows, the general store. Your eyes, honed by years of watching men for the slightest hint of trouble, miss nothing. The flicker of cards in an alley, the glint of a bottle passed. Between shadows, the way a man's hand rests too close to the butt of his pistol. You are a predator hunting predators, your presence a constant, low-grade pressure that keeps the worst of the town's impulses in check. This is the grim reality of being a frontier lawman, a truth so far removed from the dime novel myths of heroic gunslingers that it makes you laugh a dry, bitter laugh. Those stories are lies. There is no glory in this job. There is no quick-draw duels at high noon. There is only the long, thankless work of standing between a town and its own worst nature, of knowing you are the one man everyone needs and no one wants. You are an outcast by trade, yet your patrol ends where it began, at the small, sturdy brick building that serves as your office and the town jail. You step inside, the heavy oak door closing behind you with a solid, definitive thud. The silence inside is a physical relief, a balm on your frayed nerves. You light a lantern, it's clean, steady glow a comfort after the harsh gaslight of the street. You unbuckle your gun belt and hang it on a peg by the door. The release of its weight from your hips is the best part of your day. It is a heavy burden, the weight of every life you've failed to save, every sin you've been paid to witness. You sit down at your desk, the wood scarred with the names of forgotten men, and you listen to the sounds of your town through the thick brick walls. You are the lawman, the watcher on the wall, and the star on your chest is the coldest, loneliest thing you own. Asterisk, you are halfway through a cup of weak, bitter coffee when a sharp, frantic knock rattles the thick oak door of your office. You freeze. A knock this late, after the respectable folk have bolted their doors and the unrespectable ones have settled into their debauchery, means only one thing: trouble has found you. You set the cup down, your hand instinctively going to the Colt Peacemaker still holstered at your hip. You walk to the door and slide the heavy bolt. When you pull it open, the cold night air rushes in, and with it, a ghost. She is the preacher's daughter, Abigail. You've seen her in town, always at her father's side, a quiet, serious young woman with intelligent eyes. Tonight, those eyes are wide with a grief so profound it seems to have swallowed all the tears she has left. She is dressed in a simple black morning dress, now stained with mud and dust. Her hair, the color of autumn wheat, has come loose from its pins, framing a face that is pale with exhaustion and shock. She is the picture of a life that has been shattered. "Marshall Thorne," she says, her voice a raw whisper. "It's my father. He's gone. You already know. You found Reverend Miller's body yourself an hour ago in the ransacked church, his head bludgeoned, his pockets turned out. It was staged to look like a robbery, but you are a man who understands violence, and this was not the work of a common thief. This was an execution, a message." The Reverend had been a circuit-riding preacher, a man of God who believed his duty was not just to save individual souls, but to fight for the soul of the town itself. His recent sermons, decrying the greed and corruption that flowed from the Silver Serpent Saloon, were brave, foolish, and ultimately fatal. This is the bloody end of the great debate between the social gospel and frontier capitalism. The preacher believed in using his faith to reform society, to cleanse the town of its sins. Silas Kane, the saloon owner, believes only in the gospel of profit. Kane's gospel won. The councilman came to the manse. Abigail continues, her voice trembling but her gaze steady. They said with my father gone, I have no claim to the house. They gave me until morning to vacate. Of course they did. The town council is a nest of snakes, and Silas Kane holds them all by their tails. With the preacher dead, his daughter is a loose end, a potential witness, a moral inconvenience. They want her gone. I have nowhere to go, Marshall, she says, the words a simple, devastating statement of fact. She is not hysterical. She is not pleading. She is a woman who has lost everything, reporting the facts to the one man whose job is to care. She clutches the one thing she has left in the world to her chest, her father's thick, worn leather Bible. It is her only inheritance. You look at that book, at the way her knuckles are white as she grips it, and you have the distinct feeling that it is far more than just a book of scripture in her pocket. You see the corner of a folded piece of paper, printed with a verse. It is likely a funeral biscuit wrapper, a small, sad memento from the hasty burial this afternoon, a testament to a grief so fresh it has not yet had time to settle. You look at her, this orphaned daughter of a righteous man, and the carefully constructed walls of your own isolation begin to crack. You see in her the reflection of every innocent person this town has ever chewed up and spat out. You see a vulnerability that reminds you, with a sickening jolt, of a past you have tried to bury 6 feet deep. Your job is to keep the peace. But your duty, a far older and heavier thing, is to protect the helpless. You are the law. She has come to you for sanctuary. And the bitter, terrible irony is that in this entire, lawless town, the only place you can guarantee her safety is a cage. You stand back from the door, your decision made. "Come in, Miss Miller," you say, your voice a low, gravelly rumble. She steps inside, out of the cold darkness and into the warm, lonely light of your office. She brings with her the smell of the night, the weight of her grief, and a problem that you know, with the certainty of a coming storm, will likely get you killed. The door closes behind her, shutting out the sounds of the sinful town. Your lonely, orderly world has just been irrevocably broken. You offer her the chair by the cold stove, the only other piece of furniture in the sparse office besides your own. She sits, her posture ramrod straight, the heavy Bible clutched in her lap like a shield. The silence in the room is a heavy, awkward thing. You are a man who deals in facts, in evidence, in the clean, cold lines of the law. You are not equipped for the messy, undefined shape of another person's grief. You pour her a cup of the lukewarm coffee, a gesture that feels both necessary and entirely inadequate. Before either of you can speak, a fragile quiet is shattered. It starts with a roar from across the street, from the belly of the Silver Serpent Saloon. It is followed by the unmistakable, explosive sound of a heavy glass window bursting outwards, showering the muddy street with shards. The player piano inside stops mid-tune with a discordant jangle. The roar spills out into the night, a wave of drunken, angry voices. A brawl. You are on your feet in an instant, the transition from quiet man to martial seamless and absolute. "Bolt the door behind me," you command, your voice a low, hard growl. Don't open it for anyone. You don't look to see if she obeys. Your focus is already across the street, assessing the chaos. This is your job. This is the nightly ritual of this town. Men digging silver from the earth by day and trying to kill each other over it by night. You stride into the street, your boots sinking into the thick mud. The brawl has become a chaotic, swirling mass of about a dozen miners, their fists flying, their bodies slamming against the wooden walls of the saloon. You don't draw your weapon. A gun in a mob is a spark in a powder keg. Your authority, your reputation for cold, implacable force, is the first tool you use. You wade into the fray, a granite boulder splitting a raging river. You grab two men by their collars and haul them apart, their drunken protests dying in their throats as they see who has them. You are a head taller than most, your blacksmith-like strength a known quantity in this town. You are in the process of shoving another man back through the saloon doors when you see it. The cause of the riot, a younger miner, his face a bloody mask, is holding up a single playing card, the Queen of Spades. He is screaming at the saloon's dealer, accusing him of cheating at faro, the most popular and notoriously rigged game in any boom town. The sight of the card, the raw, senseless anger of the crowd, the smell of cheap whiskey and blood, it all combines and strikes you like a physical blow. The present dissolves. The muddy street of Argenta fades away, and you are plunged into the fire of a memory you have spent years trying to smother. Another town, another night, another riot. But that one was not a simple saloon brawl. It was a full-blown war, an eruption of labor violence between rival mining factions that consumed the entire town. You were a deputy then, younger, with a wife named Sarah and a 4-year-old son, Daniel. You remember the mob, a single screaming beast with 1,000 fists. Historians can debate the psychology of mob mentality, whether it's a collection of individual choices or a single irrational organism. You know the truth. You saw its face. It is a mindless fire, and its only purpose is to burn. You were trying to hold a line with a handful of other deputies to keep the violence from spilling into the residential streets. But the mob was too big, too angry. They set fire to the assayer's office. The wind carried the embers. You saw the flames leap to the next roof, and then the next. You saw the fire reach the small wooden house at the end of the street. Your house. You tried to get to them. You fought your way through the surging, violent crowd, but they were a wall of bodies, a human tide. You were helpless. You could only watch as the flames engulfed your home, your life, your entire world. You remembered the heat on your face, the roar of the fire, a sound that has never truly left your ears. You snap back to the present. Your grip on the two miners is so tight they are gasping, their faces turning purple. The memory passed in an instant, but it left its icy chill in its wake. This is why you are who you are. This is the source of your cold, iron control. Emotion is the kindling for the fire of a mob. You extinguished your own emotions, so you could never be burned again. You released the men, shoving them apart with a final, brutal force. You stand in the center of the quieted brawl, your face a mask of stone, but your eyes hold a look so haunted, so full of cold death, that the fight drains out of every man there. Go home, you say, your voice a low, flat command that cuts through the night. Now, the crowd melts away, a pack of dogs that has been faced down by a wolf. You stand alone in the muddy street, the silence now ringing with the echoes of your past. You turn and walk back to your office, each step heavy. You open the door to find Abigail standing right where you left her, her face pale, her eyes wide. She saw it. She saw the change that came over you, a glimpse of the terrible furnace that burns behind the wall of your stoicism. You ignore her questioning gaze, walk to your desk, and sink into your chair, the weight of 2 towns, 2 riots, 2 lost worlds, settling upon your shoulders. The silence that settles in your office after the brawl is heavier than before. It is thick with the ghosts of the riot you just relived, and the presence of the woman who just witnessed your carefully constructed mask slip. Abigail looks at you, her eyes filled not with fear, but with a new questioning sympathy that you find far more unnerving. You turn away from her gaze, busying yourself by stoking the small potbelly stove, a man retreating to the familiar territory of simple, physical tasks. But the problem of Abigail Miller will not be solved by a fire. She is a woman without a home, without money, and without protection in a town that has already murdered her father for speaking the truth. You know Silas Kane? He does not leave loose ends. As soon as the sun rises, he will use his puppets on the town council to have her formally evicted. With no residence and no means of support, she will be vulnerable to a vagrancy charge. It's a classic tool of the powerful in these frontier towns, a law designed to look respectable on paper, but used in practice to expel anyone who is inconvenient. Kane will use it to either drive her out of Argenta, for good, or worse, to corner her until her only option is one of the cribs in the brothel he runs behind the Silver Serpent. The thought sends a cold, hard knot of anger into your gut. There is no boarding house in this town that Kane's influence doesn't touch. Leaving her to the charity of the townsfolk would be to abandon her to the wolves. Your gaze sweeps across your small Spartan office, and then to the thick, barred door that leads to the jail cells. There are 2 cells. One currently holds a sleeping drunk. The other is empty. It is a cage of iron and stone. It is also the one place in Argenta that Silas Kane cannot easily reach. It is a terrible, unthinkable solution. It is the only solution you have. This is the central grim debate of your profession. Is a jail for punishment or protection? You have seen some of the new modern prisons they are building back east, strange and complex contraptions. You've read about the bizarre rotary jails, revolving cages of iron designed like a carousel of human misery. They are built on the principle of absolute control and punishment. Your jail is simpler, older, a place to hold a man until the judge comes through. But tonight, its purpose must be inverted. It will not be used to keep a criminal in. It will be used to keep criminals out. You turn to face her, your own face a stone mask, hiding the turmoil within. Miss Miller, you begin, your voice the flat, official tone of the marshal. We need to discuss your situation. You lay it out for her in stark, unsparing detail. You explain the vagrancy laws, the power of the council, the character of Silas Kane. You do not soften the truth. You give her the respect of assuming she is strong enough to hear it. There is nowhere in this town that is safe for you. You conclude. No room you can rent, no family that will take you in without putting themselves in Kane's sights. She listens, her hands twisting in her lap, but her eyes never leave your face. She is a preacher's daughter, and you are offering her a lesson on the true nature of evil. There is one place, you say, the words feeling like gravel in your mouth. You nod toward the barred door. It's not a home. It's not comfortable, but it is safe. The walls are 2 feet of solid stone, and the lock on that door answers only to my key. You can stay in the spare cell until we can figure something else out. You watch the emotions play across her face. Shock, a flash of shame, the deep, ingrained horror of a respectable woman being offered a jail cell. She looks at the cold iron door, and then back at you, at the grim honesty in your eyes, and she understands. She sees the offer for what it truly is, not an insult, but the most profound and binding vow of protection you are capable of making. It is the only true sanctuary you can give. Her chin lifts, a small, defiant gesture. Thank you, Marshal, she says, her voice barely a whisper. I accept. You take a key from the board on the wall and lead her to the cell block. The air is cold and smells of lye and damp stone. You unlock the second cell. It is brutally simple. A narrow cot with a thin mattress, a bucket, and a small, high window barred against the night. You go back to your office and retrieve the spare wool blanket you keep for yourself. A small, inadequate gesture of comfort. She steps inside the cell without hesitation. You close the heavy, barred door. The sound of the lock clicking home is a deafening, final sound in the quiet building. It is the sound of a prison. It is the sound of a sanctuary. She stands on one side of the bars, you on the other. You are her jailer. You are her guardian. You have locked away the one innocent person in this town in order to keep her safe from it. The world is upside down. You'll be safe here, Miss Miller, you say, the words a solemn promise. You turn and walk back to your office, leaving her alone in her strange and terrible sanctuary. The morning light filtering through the high, barred window of your office reveals the absurdity of your situation. You are sharing a breakfast of stale biscuits and black coffee with a preacher's daughter who has just spent the night in your jail. The silence between you is thick with unspoken questions and the ghosts of the previous night. She is composed, her grief a quiet, dignified cloak, but you can see the exhaustion and fear in the deep shadows under her eyes. I cannot stay locked in here. Marshal, she says, her voice low but firm. They will be clearing out my father's things from the manse today. There are personal effects I must retrieve. You know it is a risk. For her to be seen in town is to make herself a target. But you also see the stubborn set of her jaw. She will not be made a prisoner, even for her own safety. Her father's memory, his dignity, demands this one last act of filial duty. The main street is a river of mud and trouble, Miss Miller, you say. Stay in the open. Be quick. I have paperwork that will keep me occupied. It is a lie. The moment she steps out the front door, her head held high, a small, empty carpet bag in her hand, you slip out the back. You melt into the alleyways that run like a secret circulatory system behind the town's false fronts. This is your territory. You know every overflowing trash bin, every loose fence board, every shadowed doorway. You become a ghost, a silent observer trailing her path. You watch as she walks through the town. The veneer of civilization is thin here. The so-called respectable citizens, the ones who listen to her father's sermons on Sunday, now turn their faces away, not wanting to be associated with her trouble. This is the reality behind the theories of broken windows. The small acts of cowardice and neglect create the very atmosphere of lawlessness where a man like Cain can thrive. The town's visible decay of spirit is a far greater threat than any brawl. As she approaches the small white church, you see them. Two of Cain's men, the same thugs from the saloon brawl, are loitering across the street, pretending to inspect a horse's shoe. Their posture is a study in false nonchalance. To a casual observer, they are just two men passing the time. To you, they are wolves, and their eyes never leave the preacher's daughter. They are not just common thugs. They are acting as man-catchers, private enforcers paid to watch, to track, and to intimidate. The threat against her is not random. It is organized. Abigail enters the church manse. The men do not follow. Instead, the leader makes a subtle, almost imperceptible hand gesture to another of Cain's men, who is standing half a block down, pretending to clean a rifle. The signal is passed. It is a coordinated surveillance, a net. They are not just watching her. They are mapping her movements, learning her habits, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. You stay hidden, a cold, patient anger building in your chest. You are a hunter by nature, and you recognize the tactics of a patient predator. After 10 minutes, Abigail emerges. She is clutching a small, wooden box to her chest. You know it holds the few sentimental treasures she came for her mother's. Locket, perhaps a photograph, and the simple jet cravat pin her father wore on Sundays. It is a pathetic inheritance, a box of memories, and the men across the street are watching it as if it were a chest of gold. She begins the walk back to your office, her steps quick and purposeful. She must feel their eyes on her back, but she does not falter. She does not look over her shoulder. Her composure is a weapon, her dignity a shield. She is a remarkable, infuriatingly brave woman. Cain's men follow, keeping their distance, two hyenas trailing a wounded but defiant lioness. And you follow them, a shadow in the alleyways, your hand resting on the cool, warm grip of your Colt. You are the final, unseen piece in this deadly procession. She reaches the safety of your office door and disappears inside. The two men, seeing their quarry has gone to ground, share a frustrated look, spit on the ground, and saunter back toward the saloon. You wait until they are gone before slipping back into your office through the rear entrance. Abigail is standing by your desk, her hands trembling as she opens the small box. She looks up as you enter, her eyes wide with the fear she no longer tries to hide. They were watching me, she whispers. I know, you say, your voice a low growl. The truth of the situation has now been confirmed in the harsh light of day. This is not just about silencing a witness. It is a hunt. And the small stone jail cell is no longer a temporary sanctuary. It is the only thing in this godforsaken town standing between the preacher's daughter and her father's fate. Life settles into a tense and unnatural routine. By day, Abigail is a prisoner of your hospitality, confined to the small, sunlit space of your office. She makes it her own, cleaning with a fierce, restless energy, mending your worn shirts, and reading her father's Bible for hours on end. By night, she is a prisoner of your protection, the heavy, final sound of the cell door locking her into safety. The arrangement is a constant, grating reminder of your failure to impose true order on this town. You are not upholding the law. You are hiding an innocent woman from it. After 3 days, the pretense of this self-sufficiency shatters. You run out of coffee. It is a small, mundane problem, but its solution is a perilous one. The general store is a public space, the town's central hub, a place where whispers and stares hold more power than bullets. You cannot let her go alone, but to be seen with her is to give credence to the very rumors you know are already spreading. I will go with you. You state the words a flat command. It is not a request. The walk to the store is a silent ordeal. Every eye on the main street follows you. The marshal and the preacher's daughter, a man of the law and a woman of God, now linked by murder and suspicion. You can feel the town's judgment, a palpable physical weight. You walk with your face a mask of cold indifference, but you are acutely aware of Abigail beside you, her head held high, her steps never faltering. You enter the general store, the jingle of the bell above the door announcing your arrival. The storekeeper gives you a nervous, tight-lipped nod. The air inside is thick with the scent of dried goods, leather, and unspoken hostility. And then you see them. Two of Cain's men, the same ones who had been watching her, are loitering by the counter, their presence a deliberate, calculated trap. You ignore them, moving to the back of the store. Coffee. You say to Abigail, your voice low. Get what you need. She moves to the large barrels, scooping the rich, dark Arbuckle's Ariosa coffee beans into a small sack. It is a simple domestic act, a small piece of normalcy in an insane world. And it is this normalcy that they cannot allow. Well, one of the thugs says, his voice loud enough to carry through the entire store. Look what the marshal dragged in. Seems the jailhouse is getting mighty cozy. You feel Abigail. Flinch, but you keep your back to them, pretending to inspect a display of new axes. Do not react, you tell yourself. Emotion is their weapon. I hear she's a special guest, the other man chortles. The preacher's girl. Bet she's offering up all sorts of prayers in that cell of hers. The innuendo is as vile as it is obvious. This is a classic tactic of intimidation, a public verbal assault known as the third degree. It is designed to break a person's spirit, to humiliate them into submission. In a town that operates on an honor-shame culture, this is not just an insult. It is an attempt at a kind of social execution. They are trying to strip her of her honor, to make her an object of shame, so that no one will dare to stand with her. Abigail finishes with the coffee and turns to go to the counter. The first thug steps directly into her path, blocking her way. He is close enough now that you can smell the stale whiskey on his breath. What's the hurry, little miss? He sneers, his eyes raking over her. Don't you want to thank the marshal properly for his protection? That is the line. The physical intimidation, the final, unforgivable violation of her space, got you move. It is not a sudden, explosive action. It is a slow, deliberate unfolding of coiled, deadly force. You take 3 steps, and you are there. You do not speak to the man. You do not look at him. You simply place your left hand on his chest and push. It is not a shove. It is a quiet, irresistible displacement of an obstacle. The man stumbles back several feet, his face a mask of shock, the wind knocked from him. The store is utterly silent. Every customer, every loafer, is frozen, watching. You turn your head and look at the other man, the one who had been laughing. Your eyes are flat, dead, devoid of any emotion, save a cold, bottomless contempt. This is your only warning, you say, your voice a low, chilling whisper that cuts through the silence like a razor. Leave her be. The man's bravado melts, away under your gaze. He sees no anger in your eyes to challenge, no fear to exploit. He sees only a promise of a violence so absolute it terrifies him. He gives a jerky, panicked nod, grabs his partner, and the two of them practically scramble. Out of the store. You stand there for a long moment, a figure of absolute authority in the sudden vacuum of their retreat. Then you turn, Take the sack of coffee beans from Abigail's trembling hands. Place the coins on the counter and nod to the stunned storekeeper. The lady is with me, you say, the words a public declaration. You walk out of the store, Abigail. At your side. The walk back to the jail is silent, but the world has changed. The line of professional duty has been crossed, and you have publicly, irrevocably, thrown the shield of your own name over her. You are no longer just a lawman protecting a witness. You are a man protecting his charge. And everyone in Argenta, including Silas Kane, now knows it. The day after the confrontation at the general store, a tense, watchful quiet settles over Argenta. You have made your move, a public declaration that the preacher's daughter is under your protection. Now you wait for Silas Kane to make his. The town holds its breath. You spend the day in your office, cleaning your weapons, the rhythmic, metallic scrape of the cleaning rod counterpoint to the nervous hammering in your chest. Abigail sits by the window, her father's Bible open on her lap, but you can see. She is not reading. She is listening, waiting, just as you are. The knock on your door comes late in the afternoon. It is not the frantic knock of a victim or the heavy boot kick of a thug. It is a calm, polite, confident rap. You know before. You open it. Who is on the other side? Silas Kane stands on your doorstep, a vision of tailored civility in this town of mud and grit. He is dressed in a fine black suit, a silk vest, and at his throat, a glittering diamond stickpin catches the afternoon sun, a single brilliant point of arrogant light. He is holding a lit cigar, and its expensive aromatic smoke curls into the air, an immediate invasion of your Spartan world. Marshal Thorne, he says, his voice a smooth, charismatic purr. He smiles, but the smile does not reach his cold, calculating eyes. He glances past you at Abigail. Miss Miller, my deepest condolences on your father's passing. He was a man of conviction. The word is laced with a barely concealed contempt. He then looks back to you. I have some business with the marshal. A matter of town security. If you would be so good as to give us a moment of privacy. It is a polite request phrased as an unbreakable command. Abigail gives you a brief, worried look before rising and disappearing into the sanctuary of the jail cell. Closing the solid door behind her, Kane steps inside, bringing his cloud of cigar smoke with him. He looks around your office, at the wanted posters, the gun rack, the simple cot, a look of amused disdain on his face. A man of your talents deserves better than this, Marshal. A stone box and a pittance of a salary. He sits in the chair you offered Abigail, making himself at home. He represents a philosophy that has taken root in the Gilded Age, a brutal form of social Darwinism. He believes society is a wilderness where only the strong and ruthless, like himself, are fit to survive. The weak, the poor, the pious, the overly scrupulous, are simply obstacles to progress. Your work is appreciated. Thorne, he continues, taking a long draw from his cigar. You keep the miners from killing each other in the streets, and that's good for business. You are an effective tool, but you are interfering with the natural order of things. He gestures with his cigar toward the cell block door. That girl, her father was a nuisance, a man who thought morality was more important than profit, a dangerous fool. The girl is an echo of that foolishness, a loose end. She is bad for business. You remain standing, your arms crossed, your face a mask of stone. You let him talk. Argenta is on the cusp of greatness, Kane says, his voice full of a visionary's fire. We have silver. We have the railroad coming. We need investors, capital. We do not need crusading preachers and their orphan daughters reminding everyone of sin and mortality. We are selling a boomtown, not a convent. He leans forward and places a heavy leather satchel on your desk. He loosens the drawstring. With a soft, heavy clatter, A cascade of newly minted silver dollars spills out onto the wood. They are Morgan's silver dollars, the bounty from the Bland Allison Act, the very lifeblood of this silver town. $5,000, Kane says softly. More than you'll make in 10 years of wading through mud and blood. A retirement bonus. A thank you for your service to this town's prosperity. All you have to do is declare the girl a vagrant. Put her on the morning stagecoach and look the other way. Let the natural order reassert itself. This is the moment. The devil's gilded bargain. He is not just offering you a bribe. He is offering you an escape, a ranch somewhere quiet, a life free from the ghosts that haunt you, all for the price of one innocent girl's future. You look at the pile of silver gleaming in the lantern light. You think of the blood and violence that silver has caused. You think of the riot that took your family, a fire fueled by this same brand of ruthless greed. You think of Abigail, a refugee in your jail, clutching her father's Bible. You look Silas Kane directly in the eye. "Get out of my office," you say, your voice quiet and absolute. The charismatic mask vanishes. The smile is gone, replaced by a look of cold reptilian fury. The friendly businessman is gone. The robber baron, the predator, is all that remains. He stands up slowly, his movements precise and dangerous. "You are making a grave mistake, Marshal," he hisses. "You are just one man. A man with a past, I might add. A past that I imagine the good people of this town would find very interesting. The threat is clear. He knows something about you. You have chosen the girl over progress. You have chosen the losing side, and I do not tolerate losing." He turns and walks to the door, leaving the pile of silver on your desk, a glittering testament to your defiance. "The offer stands until sunrise," he says without looking back. "After that, the price of your integrity will be much, much higher." He closes the door behind him, and you are left alone with the devil's silver, its cold, heavy presence a promise of the war that is to come. The sun rises on a new, colder reality. The bag of silver sits on your desk, a silent, glittering serpent. You stare at it for a long moment, at the easy way out you have refused. With a grim finality, you dump the coins into an empty evidence locker and turn the key. It is not a problem solved, only postponed. You let Abigail out of the cell. The shame of her confinement is still in her eyes, but it is now overlaid with a look of profound, unspoken gratitude. She knows what you did. She knows you stood between her and Silas Kane, that you chose her safety over a fortune. This knowledge forges a new, powerful bond in the quiet of the office, a fragile alliance against the entire town. When you step outside to walk your morning patrol, you feel the shift immediately. The town's atmosphere has curdled overnight. It is no longer a simple mixture of fear and respect. It is a thick, poisonous stew of suspicion and contempt. Kane has unleashed his other army, the one armed with whispers. His men are everywhere, not loitering with menace, but talking in hushed, serious tones to the miners, the shopkeepers, the stable hands. They are not spreading gossip. They are planting seeds, tending to a crop of slander. As you approach, the conversations stop abruptly. The men disperse, leaving behind a wake of hostile, sideways glances. This is the frontier version of yellow journalism, a campaign of lies designed not to inform, but to incite and destroy. You begin to hear the whispers yourself, catching fragments on the wind. They are twisting the truth into a grotesque new shape. It's not just that you are sheltering the preacher's daughter. They are saying she is your mistress. That you, the stoic, iron-willed marshal, are so besotted with her that you murdered her father to have her for yourself. It is a lie so vile, so perfectly crafted to stain both her piety and your integrity, that it takes your breath away, as you pass the saloon. You see one of Cain's men playing poker just inside the doorway. He catches your eye, a cruel smirk on his face, and slowly lays his cards on the table. 2 black aces, 2 black eights, the dead man's hand. It is a piece of grim, silent theater for the entire saloon to see. An accusation of murder and a prophecy of your own death, all delivered without a single word. Then comes the second wave of the attack, the one Cain promised. The whispers begin to touch on your past. The details are wrong, distorted, but they are wrapped around a kernel of a truth you thought you had buried forever. They say you weren't a hero in your last town. They say you were a gunman, a hired killer who was run out on a rail after a dispute with your last employer. This is the central, brutal question of power on the frontier. What holds more sway? The institutional authority of your badge, or the informal, pervasive power of public opinion? Cain cannot take your star from you, so he is trying to make it worthless by poisoning the well of public trust. If the town believes you are a murderer and a hypocrite, your badge is just a piece of tin. The poison works with terrifying speed. The shopkeeper who gave you a nervous nod yesterday now refuses to meet your eye. The children, who once watched you with a mixture of fear and awe, are now hurried inside by their mothers as you pass. You are being tried and convicted in the court of whispers, and you have no defense. Your stoicism, your refusal to engage with gossip, is seen as proof of your guilt. Your own emotional armor is being used as a weapon against you. You return to the office to find Abigail scrubbing the floor with a frantic, furious energy, her knuckles white on the brush. She is trying to physically scour away the filth of the words she has undoubtedly heard. Through the thin glass of the window, the final crushing proof of Cain's victory comes late in the afternoon. A simple dispute over a mining claim boils over into a fistfight in the street. You step in to break it up, as you have done 100 times. But this time is different. Get your hands off me, Thorne. One of the miners snarls, shoving you back. Why should we listen to a killer? You're no better than any of us. The challenge, so open and contemptuous, hangs in the air. For the first time, your authority has been publicly defied. You are forced to subdue the man physically, to drag him to the jail, the act of force a clear admission that your reputation, your primary tool of law enforcement, is broken. You throw the man into the cell next to the one Abigail uses as her sanctuary. You stand there, your breath ragged, your heart a cold, heavy stone in your chest. You look through the bars at Abigail, her face pale, her eyes filled with a pained understanding. Keeping her here is no longer enough. The whispers Cain planted have grown into a monster, and it is howling for both of your heads. Your strategy of simple protection has failed. You need a new one, a bolder, more radical, and far more dangerous plan. The defiance of the miner you arrested festers in the office air long after you've thrown him in the cell. It is a symptom of a deeper sickness. Your authority, the only real weapon you possess in this town, is bleeding out, wounded by the 1,000 small cuts of Cain's whisper campaign. You stand by the window, looking out at the muddy street, but you are not seeing the town. You are seeing the endgame. Abigail is sitting at your desk, a heavy Bible open before her, but her eyes are fixed on you. The pity and fear she felt earlier have been replaced by a quiet, shared dread. She understands. She is the cause of your professional ruin, and your ruin will be the cause of her destruction. He's winning. You state, your voice a flat, dead thing. You turn from the window to face her, deciding that the time for shielding her from the grim calculus of your situation is over. Cain isn't just trying to make the town hate you, Miss Miller. He's trying to make them hate me. He's making my badge worthless. You lay out the brutal logic of it. A marshal's power isn't in his gun. It's in the respect the town gives him. Cain has taken that away. In a week, maybe 2, The council will have all the justification they need to demand my resignation. The moment I am no longer marshal, I have no legal right to protect you, and you will be utterly alone. Her face is pale in the lamplight. She sees the trap closing around you both. Your position, you continue, the words tasting like poison, is the weapon he is using against me. To the town, you are a woman of questionable reputation, not because of who you are, but because of where you are. An unmarried woman, living in the protection of an unmarried lawman. They see it as a scandal. It is the moral leverage Cain needs to break me. You begin to pace the small, cramped office, the cage of your own making. You have considered every option. Sending her away on the stagecoach is impossible. Cain's men would simply take her at the first stop, hiding her with one of the few. Decent families would endanger them as well. There is no escape. There is only the closing of the net. Unless you change the rules of the game. The idea that has been forming in the back of your mind, an idea so insane, so desperate that you've tried to ignore it, now steps forward into the light. It is a legal maneuver, a crashing together of the public and private spheres, a move. So radical, it might just be the one thing Cain would never anticipate. You stop your pacing and look at her. "Miss Miller," you say, your voice low and intense. "He is attacking your legal status to destroy my legal authority. Therefore, the only way to protect us both is to change your legal status." She looks at you, her brow furrowed in confusion. "I don't understand." You take a deep breath. Under the law, as a married woman, your legal identity is protected by that of your husband. It is an old, unfair doctrine called coverture, but we can use it as a shield. As your husband, my right to protect you would no longer be a question of professional duty. It would be a personal, legal, and moral obligation that no town council and no saloon owner could question. You let the words hang in the air. You watch as the meaning dawns on her face, her eyes widening and horrified. Disbelief. Marshal. "What are you suggesting?" "I am suggesting a contract," you say, your voice devoid of any warmth or romance. "A marriage. In name only. A piece of paper filed with the circuit judge. We present ourselves to the town as man and wife. It would silence the rumors. It would make you a respectable citizen, not a ward of the jail. Any move against you would be a move against my wife, and even in a town like this, that is a line that men are hesitant to cross. It is the one thing we can do that sanctifies my protection of you under the law. You are using the most private of institutions as a public weapon." You see the conflict warring in her face. She is a preacher's daughter. Marriage is a holy sacrament, a sacred vow before God. You are proposing to turn it into a lie, a strategic deception. It would be a sin, she whispers, the words catching in her throat. It would be survival, you counter, your voice hard. "I am not asking for a wife, Miss Miller. I am asking for an ally in a legal battle. There would be no expectations. It would be a partnership, a fortress of law with a garrison of 2. Once Cain is dealt with, once you are truly safe, we can have it annulled. You would be free. I give you my word." You have laid your desperate, insane, and strangely honorable offer at her feet. You have offered her the protection of your name, the only thing you have left that still has any power. She looks away from you, her gaze falling on the iron bars of the cell where she sleeps. She looks at the bolted office door, a flimsy barrier against the hostile town outside. She has been asked to choose between her father's faith and the brutal, godless pragmatism of the man who is trying to save her life. After a long, terrible silence, she looks back at you. The fear in her eyes is still there, but beneath it is a flicker of the same steel you've seen before. She has weighed her soul against her life. "If it is the only way to see justice done for my father," she says, her voice barely audible but firm as iron. "Then I accept your proposal. Marshal." The decision, once made, settles in the small office with the weight of a tombstone. The air is thick with the enormity of the lie you are about to build your lives upon. You know you must act with the speed and finality of a striking snake, before Cain has time to counter. The circuit judge, a man whose authority is absolute and beyond Cain's corrupting reach, is holding court in the next county, a full day's ride away. It is to him you must go. There is no preparation for this wedding. There is no joy. It is a grim, strategic deployment. Abigail wears her only dress, the simple black garment of a mourner, which now must serve as a wedding gown. Its somber color is a painfully appropriate testament to the circumstances. You wear your marshal's coat, the wool brushed clean, the tin star on your chest, a cold, lonely point of light. You need a ring. The thought is an absurd, almost laughable detail in the face of such a desperate gambit. You have no family heirlooms, no gold. You walk to the small supply bin in the corner of your office, take out a single, clean iron nail, and carry it to the small anvil you keep for mending shackles. With a few precise blows of a light hammer, you shape the nail into a simple, dark, unadorned circle. It is not a symbol of love or eternity. It is a circle of iron, forged for a purpose, a shield, a shackle. The ride to the county seat is a long, punishing silence. You and Abigail sit side by side on the hard buckboard seat, the space between you charged with everything you have not said. You are acutely aware of her presence, of the subtle scent of lavender from the soap she uses, of the quiet strength in the way she holds her hands clasped in her lap. You are two strangers, bound by a shared enemy, on your way to bind yourselves together in the most intimate way the law allows. The territorial court is being held in a half-finished saloon, the air thick with the smell of fresh-sawn pine and stale whiskey. The circuit judge is a man named Pettigrew, with a weary, leathery face and eyes that seem to have judged 1,000 liars. He listens to your request without a flicker of surprise. On the frontier, he has seen marriage used for every purpose. Under the sun, to secure land grants, to legitimize heirs, to settle feuds. Your request for a swift legal ceremony is just another piece of the strange human tapestry he governs. He reads the words from his law book, his voice a dry monotone. The ceremony is stripped of all sentiment, all holiness. It is a legal transaction, a transfer of status. You think of the old folk traditions, of a broomstick wedding, a simple, practical rite for people with nothing but their word. This feels like the cold, legalistic version of that. It is a contract, plain and simple, and you are debating not its romance, but its legal validity in your own mind. You are betting that the letter of the law will be enough to shield you, that your private intent does not matter. Do you, Elias Thorne, take this woman? The judge drones. You look at Abigail. Her face is pale, her eyes fixed on some point beyond the judge's shoulder. She is a preacher's daughter, about to commit what she must surely see as a form of sacrilege. But you see no doubt in her eyes, only a grim, sorrowful resolve. I do, you say, the words an iron weight in your mouth. And do you, Abigail Miller? I do, she whispers, her voice a thread of sound in the quiet room. Then by the authority vested in me by the United States government and the laws of this territory, I pronounce you man and wife. He gestures for the ring. You take the dark iron circle you forged and slide it onto her finger. It is cold against her skin. Your calloused, scarred fingers touch hers for a brief, electric moment. It is the only physical contact you have shared. Sign the ledger. Then she signs her new name, Abigail Thorne, her elegant script, a stark contrast to your own rough scrawl. The judge makes a copy of the certificate, his seal a final, authoritative stamp on your new reality. The ride back to Argenta is even quieter than the journey out. The certificate is a heavy, powerful weight in your coat pocket. You do not go to your office. You go directly to the town clerk. You file the document, the clerk's eyes wide with disbelief as he stamps it and records it in the official town ledger. The news will be all over town within the hour. You and Abigail step back out into the harsh afternoon sun, now legally husband and wife. The townspeople who see you stop and stare, their mouths agape. You have taken their ugliest rumors and consecrated them with the full, unassailable power of the federal judiciary. Cain's weapons of shame and innuendo have been rendered useless. You look at Abigail, at the stark, black iron ring on her finger. It is a brand, a claim, a shield. You have both just taken a vow, not of love, but of something far more primal. A vow of mutual survival. A vow of war. The night of your wedding is a quiet, desolate affair. Abigail moves her few belongings from the cell to a small cot you set up in the corner of your office. The iron ring on her finger looks like a brand, a stark black circle against her. Pale skin, you sit at your desk, cleaning your Colt Peacemaker, the motion automatic, soothing. The heavy oak door is bolted. The windows are shuttered. You have turned your office into a fortress, and you are both its prisoners. You are waiting for Cain's response. You know it will not be a legal challenge. It will be an act of war, doubt it? Comes just after midnight. The world explodes. A deafening roar tears through the back of the building. The force of it so powerful, it rattles the teeth in your skull. The windows shatter inward, and the lantern on your desk is extinguished, plunging the room into a sudden, shocking darkness. Gunpowder and pulverized stone fill the air. Dynamite. They've blown the back wall of the jail. Your instincts, honed by a life of violence, take over. Stay down. You roar at Abigail as you draw your Colt, your eyes trying to pierce the dust-choked gloom. The explosion was a diversion, a classic tactic. It's meant to draw you to the back, to deal with the chaos of the jailbreak, which means the real attack is coming from the front. You are proven right a second later. The heavy front door of your office splinters, then bursts from its hinges as 3 of Cain's men crash through, their forms dark silhouettes against the weak gaslight of the street. The fight is a close, brutal, desperate affair. It is not a gunfight. In the cramped, dark space, a gun is as dangerous to you as it is to them. It is a brawl, a storm of fists and boots and grunted curses. This is not the expressive, drunken violence of a saloon brawl. This is cold, methodical, instrumental violence, the work of men who have been paid to do a job. Their job is to kill. You and take the girl. You overturn your heavy oak desk, its solid mass a temporary barricade. The first man comes over it, a long-bladed knife in his hand. You meet him with the full force of your body, the impact driving the air from your lungs. You disarm him, the back of your hand smashing against his jaw with a satisfying, brutal crunch. Another man is circling around the desk. He is holding something small and T-shaped in his fist. A push dagger, a vicious, intimate weapon of assassins and back-alley killers. He lunges, and you feel a searing, white-hot pain in your side as the blade tears through your coat and your flesh. You cry out, staggering back. Abigail screams your name from the corner. The man with the push dagger grins, his teeth a yellow. Slash in the darkness, and moves in for the kill. But Abigail is not a helpless victim. She is a preacher's daughter, and she has her own kind of fire. She grabs the one weapon available to her, the heavy, cast-iron inkwell on the floor by the ruined desk. With a cry of pure, desperate fury, she throws it with all her might. The inkwell, a heavy missile, catches the man squarely in the temple. He grunts, surprise and pain on his face, and stumbles, giving you the 1 second you need. You ignore the fire in your side and surge forward, bringing the barrel of your Colt down on the man's head. He collapses in a heap. The third man, seeing his partner's fall, loses his nerve. But his orders are clear. He makes a desperate lunge not for you, but for Abigail. His goal is to grab her and drag her out into the street. You are too far away. The pain in your side a crippling anchor. It is about to be over. You have failed, but the chaos Cain created has a will of its own. The dynamite, meant to be a simple diversion, has also set the back of the jail on fire. The town, which Cain assumed would cower in their beds, has been roused. The sound of the town's fire bell begins to clang, a frantic, insistent alarm. Shouts erupt from the street, the sounds of men, not in a panic, but organizing, grabbing. Rifles and buckets. The man holding Abigail hears it. He sees the tide is turning. His window of opportunity is closing. With a curse, he shoves Abigail against the wall, but in his haste, his eyes fall on the one thing of value in the room besides. Her, the heavy leather satchel of silver dollars you took from Cain, which you had foolishly left on a shelf. He snatches the bag, a consolation prize, and flees out the broken door into the night. You are left in the wreckage of your office, the smell of gunpowder and blood thick in your throat. You are bleeding freely from the wound in your side, your strength failing. The sounds of the town fighting the fire and hunting the escaped prisoners swirl outside. The immediate attack is over. The chaos has, for the moment, saved you. Abigail rushes to your side, her face a pale moon in the darkness, her eyes wide with terror and a fierce protective light. You collapse to one knee, the world spinning into a gray haze. The last thing you see being her face, her lips forming your name. You drift on a red tide of pain. The world is a disjointed collection of sensations. The splintered wood of the floorboards against your cheek, the sharp, coppery taste of blood in your mouth, the chaotic shouts from the street outside. Above it all, one thing is a clear, steady anchor in the spinning darkness. Abigail's voice, low and urgent, calling your name. You feel her hands on you, surprisingly strong. She tears away the fabric of your shirt, and you cry out as a fresh wave of agony rips through your side. Then comes the searing, cleansing fire of whiskey being poured into the wound. You grit your teeth, the pain so intense it brings a moment of perfect, horrifying clarity. You are alive. Badly wounded, but alive. Through a haze, you watch as she becomes a whirlwind of focused energy. She is no longer the frightened preacher's daughter. She is a soldier in a besieged fort. She shoves the heavy, overturned desk against the broken doorway, creating a barricade. She finds another lantern, its glass miraculously intact, and lights it, pushing back the shadows. She is taking command, securing the position while you, the lawman, lie bleeding and helpless on the floor dot as she moves to clear some of the debris. She finds it, her father's Bible, lying half open on the floor where it was knocked during the fight. As she picks it up, a single folded sheet of paper flutters out from between its pages. It is not a bookmark. It is covered in her father's neat, scholarly handwriting. His last sermon, she whispers, her voice thick with a sudden rush of grief, the one he was working on. The sounds of the town fighting the fire and hunting the escapee from the jail provide a chaotic backdrop. She brings the lantern closer and sits on the floor near you, as if her presence could lend you strength. She unfolds the paper. The title of the sermon is A House Built Upon the Rock and a House Built Upon the Sand. It is a classic biblical allegory, a story of true versus false foundations, a clear condemnation of the glittering, hollow prosperity of Silas Cain's Argenta dot. As she reads, you watch her expression change from sorrowful remembrance to sharp, intellectual focus. That's odd, she murmurs, her finger tracing a line of text. You drift closer to consciousness, drawn in by the intensity in her voice. What is it? You manage to groan. Beside certain words, there are notes in the margin, she says, holding the paper closer to the light. Numbers and abbreviations. Look, Prov 10-2, Luke 16:11. It's a code, a book cipher. She scrambles to retrieve the Bible, its familiar weight a comfort in her hands. She opens it, her fingers flying through the thin pages with an expert speed. This is her territory. For years, you have honed your skills with a gun and the law. She has honed hers with scripture and textual interpretation. This is a battle you cannot fight, but she can. In this moment, the power of literacy is a far greater weapon than the pistol lying useless on the floor. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 2, she whispers, her finger landing on the verse. She reads it aloud, treasures of wickedness profit nothing, but righteousness delivereth from death. She looks up at you, her eyes wide. He's not just citing scripture, Elias. He's leaving a message. Her use of your first name is a jolt, an intimate sound in the midst of chaos. She turns the pages again, her mind racing. Luke 16:11. If therefore ye have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who will commit to your trust the true riches? She looks back and forth between the sermon notes and the Bible, her breathing growing quicker. The words, treasures, wickedness, unrighteous mammon, true riches are not just abstract concepts. They are clues. Her father was not just a preacher. He was an investigator, using the language of his faith to document the sins of a man he knew was a devil. Then she sees it. A final set of numbers, scrawled at the very bottom of the page. Rev 18-2. She flips to the final book of the Bible, the book of prophecy and judgment. Revelation 18:2. She reads, her voice trembling with the force of her discovery. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit. She stops, her eyes scanning the rest of the text. Then she looks at the sermon notes again. Her father had underlined specific words in the verse, not just the verse itself. Fallen, hold, foul spirit. And in his notes, he had drawn a small, crude sketch. A snake, the silver serpent, she breathes, her eyes locking with yours. It's not just a sermon, it's a map. She pieces it together, her voice filled with a cold, righteous fury. Treasures of wickedness, the hold of every foul spirit. The silver serpent. She looks at you, the puzzle solved, the truth a terrible, brilliant light in her eyes. He hid it. My father found proof of Cain's crimes, and he hid the location in his sermon notes. It's at the saloon, a secret ledger, the true riches that will bring this whole house of sand crashing down. You lie there, bleeding on the floor of your ruined office, your physical power utterly broken. But in the lamplight, you see Abigail, the grieving daughter, transformed into an instrument of her father's final damning judgment. The tide of the war has just turned, not by a bullet, but by a dead man's words and his daughter's brilliant mind. Your world is a gray, swimming haze of pain. Through it, you are vaguely aware of the sounds of the town reasserting itself, the clang of the fire bell ceasing, the organized shouts of a makeshift posse. But your world is shrunk to the fore. Ruined walls of your office and the steady, determined presence of Abigail. Hold still. Elias, she commands, her voice a low, urgent whisper. The use of your first name cuts through the fog. You are no longer martial to her. You are a man, wounded and vulnerable. You watch as she takes a small, silver letter opener her father's from the box of memories she rescued. She holds its tip in the hottest part of the lantern's flame, her hand unnervingly steady. You know what she is going to do. In a town without a doctor, a deep knife wound like the one you have means a slow death from infection, unless the bleeding is stopped and the flesh is sealed. It is a brutal, necessary act of frontier medicine. Do it, you grunt, bracing yourself. The searing agony as the hot metal touches your flesh is a supernova of pain, so intense it burns away all other thought. It is a terrible, intimate act, a baptism by fire that binds you to her in a way no paper marriage ever could. Through the long, dark hours before dawn, she tends to you. As the pain subsides into a dull, throbbing ache, your mind clears. The chaos outside has died down. The fire is out. The escaped prisoner has been recaptured by the townsfolk. A fragile, temporary order has been restored. But the snake, Silas, Cain, is still in his den. The ledger, you say, your voice a hoarse rasp. I have it. Abigail says, pointing to where her father's Bible rests on the less damaged corner of the desk, the sermon notes safely tucked inside. I know where he keeps his real treasures. A grim plan forms in the quiet of the ruined office. Cain will be expecting you to be dead or dying. He will believe he has won. That is his weakness. That is your advantage. A direct assault on the saloon would be suicide. But the law, even a tarnished and disrespected version of it, is still a weapon if wielded with enough force and conviction. The sun rises, casting long, dusty fingers of light into your wrecked office. You force yourself to your feet, your side a solid wall of fire, your left arm hanging useless in a makeshift sling Abigail has fashioned. You strap on your gun belt with your one good hand. The weight of it is a familiar, painful comfort. You look at Abigail. Her face is pale with exhaustion, but her eyes are blazing with a righteous fire. She is no longer a victim. She is an instrument of her Father's justice. You walk out the door and into the morning light, together. The townspeople who see you stop and stare. They see their marshal, wounded but not broken, and the preacher's daughter, no longer his ward but his partner, walking with a slow, deliberate purpose toward the silver serpent. You don't stop to speak to anyone. You walk straight to the saloon's swinging doors and push them open. The morning crowd of miners and gamblers falls silent. They look from your wounded state to the determined woman at your side, and they clear a path. You walk the length of the long bar, your boots heavy on the sawdust-covered floor, and head directly for the carved door at the back that leads to Cain's private office. You don't knock. You kick the door open with your good leg. Silas Cain is inside, sitting behind a massive, polished mahogany desk, a gentleman's companion decanter set at his elbow. Two of his best men are with him. Their faces show a flicker of shock, then disbelief at seeing you alive. Cain recovers first, a slow, venomous smile spreading across his lips. "Marshal," he says, "I see you've had a rough night." "I do. Hope you're not here to blame your incompetence on me." His men's hands drift toward their guns. Your own hand is already resting on the grip of your Colt. This is the moment. The final confrontation. The reassertion of the monopoly of violence that the law is supposed to represent. You are here to prove that your badge, your legitimate authority, is stronger than his extra-legal tyranny. But you don't draw. It's over. "Cain," you say, your voice a low growl. He laughs. "Is it? You are wounded, Marshal. Your reputation is in tatters. You have nothing. You are mistaken." A clear voice says from behind you. Abigail steps into the room. She looks directly at Cain, her expression one of cold, unwavering judgment. She recites from memory, her voice ringing in the sudden, tense silence of the office. "Treasures of wickedness profit nothing, but righteousness delivereth from death." Cain's smile falters. He recognizes the words from the preacher's last sermon. "The ledger." "Mr. Cain," Abigail says, her voice like the tolling of a bell. The one with your true riches. The one you keep under the floorboards, right beneath the carved serpent's head on your desk. The color drains from Cain's face. The psychological blow is a more devastating attack than any bullet. He has been undone not by your gun, but by the ghost of the man he murdered. His men look at him, their own confidence shattering as they see the abject fear in their leader's eyes. Yet you say to Abigail, your own gun now drawn and steady on Cain's heart. She walks to the desk, kneels, and lifts the corner of the expensive Persian rug. She finds the loose floorboard her father's message described. From the dark space beneath, she pulls out a second identical ledger. She holds it up. It is the proof. The evidence of every extorted business, every fraudulent land deal, every paid-for act of violence. The proof of his order to have her father killed. Silas Cain looks at the book, then at you, then at the preacher's daughter who has become his doom. The lie is exposed. The house built on sand has collapsed. His empire of crime, his entire world, has just been brought down by a dead man's sermon and the unshakable courage of his child. The moment Abigail holds up the ledger is the moment the world cracks open. Silas Cain's empire, built on a foundation of whispers and fear, collapses into dust. His men, seeing their leader so utterly and intellectually dismantled, lose all. Nerve. There is no final gunfight. There is only the quiet, stunning finality of the truth. You march Cain and his 2 lieutenants out of the opulent office, through the now silent saloon, and across the muddy street to the jail. You lock him in the very cell that had been Abigail's sanctuary. The irony is as thick and cold as this. Iron bars. News of Cain's arrest for the murder of Reverend Miller rips through Argenta like a flash flood. It is not met with riots or lynch mobs. The town, for so long held in the grip of a collective, paralyzing fear, reacts with a stunned, disbelieving silence. People drift out of their businesses and homes, gathering in small, quiet groups in the street. They are not looking for vengeance. They are like prisoners who have been locked in a dark room. For so long they are afraid of the light, blinking, uncertain of what comes next. What comes next is a reclamation. The town's decent folk, the ones who had been silenced by Cain's power, find their voice. Miller, the store owner, the farmer whose brawl you broke up, they form a new provisional town council that afternoon. They are no longer passive subjects of a tyrant's whims. They are exercising their agency, taking control of their own destiny for the first time. Their first act is a symbolic and powerful one. With your authority as marshal, they vote to shut down the Silver Serpent. You walk to its swinging doors, not with a mob, but with the newly appointed council members. You don't smash the place to splinters. You simply nail a legal notice to the door, closed by order of the Argenta Town Council pending federal investigation. The player piano falls silent. The laughter dies. The town, for the first time in its history, is not going to paint the town red. The cleansing of Argenta is marked not by a wild spree, but by a sudden, profound, and sober quiet. The people of Argenta, in choosing this new path, are embarking on a project to build a new West for themselves, one based not on the boom and bust cycle of sin and silver, but on the steadier foundations of law, community, and family. Your own relationship with the town is reborn. The wall of isolation you built around yourself has crumbled. People no longer avoid your gaze. They meet it with looks of deep, heartfelt respect and gratitude. They stop you in the street not to complain, but to shake your hand. They come to your office not with trouble, but with hammers and lumber to help you repair the broken door and shattered windows. The women of the church bring baskets of food for you and Abigail, their quiet offerings a powerful apology for their previous scorn. The badge on your chest feels different. It is no longer a weight that isolates you. It is a symbol of the trust this community has placed in you. You are not just their lawman anymore. You are their leader, and Abigail is their heart. She is no longer seen as the disgraced woman, but as her father's daughter, a woman of unshakable courage and intellect who faced down a monster and won. She works beside you in the office, her sharp mind helping you sort through the mountain of paperwork required by the federal investigation into Cain's empire. She speaks to the townspeople, her grace and compassion, calming their fears and guiding their first, uncertain steps toward a better future. The reason for your marriage of convenience, the desperate need for a legal shield, is gone. The contract has been fulfilled. But the partnership it created has been tempered in the fires of conflict into something real and undeniable. The iron ring on her finger no longer feels like a shackle or a lie. It feels like a promise. A few days later, you stand with Abigail on the newly repaired steps of your office. The street is quiet. The Silver Serpent is a dark, shuttered monument to a dead era. The air feels cleaner, the future uncertain, but full of a possibility that did not exist a week ago. You have done more than arrest a killer. You have witnessed the cleansing of a town's soul. And in doing so, you have found your own place within it, not as a lonely guard on a wall, but as a builder of a new, better world, with your wife standing proudly by your side. A month passes. Autumn settles over Argenta, not with the biting chill of a place on the edge of ruin, but with the crisp, golden grace of a town with a future. The cleansing you and Abigail started has taken root. The new council governs with a quiet, steady hand. The silver from the mines now flows into legitimate businesses, building a library, a new church. Your job as marshal has transformed. The nights are no longer a war zone. You are now a keeper of a peace that is real, not just a lid on a boiling pot of chaos. Your office has transformed as well. It is no longer just a barracks and a jail. Abigail, with a quiet determination, has made it a home. Braided rugs cover the scarred floorboards. Simple, clean curtains hang in the windows. The air smells of baking bread and brewing coffee, not just gun oil and stale despair. You come in from your final patrol of the evening. The streets are quiet, the new gas lamps casting a steady, peaceful glow. Abigail is sitting at the desk, mending a shirt, the lamplight catching the warm gold in her hair. A simple supper is warming on the stove. This is your life now. This quiet, impossible peace. You walk to the peg by the door where your gun belt has hung every night for years. You unbuckle it, the weight of the Colt and the cartridges a familiar burden. But tonight, you do something different. Instead of hanging it on the peg, a constant, ready reminder of the violence that is your trade, you coil the belt carefully. You walk to your desk, unlock the bottom drawer where you keep old files, and you place the gun inside. You lock the drawer and put the key away. It is the symbolic end of an era, a quiet declaration that the frontier, at least within these walls, is now close. Abigail watches you, her needle still, her eyes understanding the gravity of your action. You turn to her, your heart a heavy, uncertain drum in your chest. The danger is over, Abigail, you say, your voice low and formal. Cain will be tried, and he will be convicted. You are safe now. The contract we made, its purpose is fulfilled. You pause, the next words the hardest you have ever had to say. You are a free woman. That iron ring is a symbol of a lie we both told to survive. I will not hold you to it. If you wish to leave Argenta, to start a new life somewhere else, I will not stop you. You have offered her an escape from this strange pact, from this life she never chose. It is the final, most important act of protection you can give her, the protection of her own freedom. She sets down her mending, and it rises from the chair. She walks over to you, stopping so close you can feel the warmth from her. She gently takes your hand, the one not scarred by the brawl, and holds it, The woman my father raised, the one who dreamed of marrying a scholar and living in a quiet parish back east. She is gone, Elias, she says softly. I think she died the day he did. This town, this life, this battle, it has forged someone new. She looks down at the simple, dark iron ring on her finger. This ring is not a lie, she says, her voice thick with emotion. It was a vow of survival. And now? It is a symbol of the only home I have ever truly known. She looks up at you, her eyes shining with a light that is not just gratitude, but a deep, abiding love. I am already home. If you will have me, not as a contract, but as a wife. This is the moment the social contract of your marriage, the one you created for public defense, is offered up to be transformed into the private, unspoken bond of love. You feel the last of the iron walls around your own heart crumble to dust. The ghosts of your past, of the wife and child you failed to protect in a firestorm of chaos, do not vanish. Instead, they recede, their sorrowful whispers finally silenced by the living, breathing promise of a future standing right in front of you. Abigail, you say, your voice a raw whisper. I thought my life was over. I thought all I had left was this badge and the ghosts. You walked into this office, and you brought life back with you. You have done the impossible. You have made me feel like a husband again. You pull her to you, your arms wrapping around her in an embrace that is both a homecoming and a new beginning. You kiss her, and it is a kiss not of desperation or strategy, but of a quiet, profound, and undeniable love. The vow, as cold as steel, has been reforged in the warmth of your shared home into a bond that will last a lifetime. The night has settled over Argenta, a blanket of quiet and stars. The new gas lamps on the main street burn with a steady, peaceful light, illuminating a town that has been cleansed, a community that has found its footing. The Silver Serpent Saloon stands dark and shuttered, a monument to a fallen tyrant, its raucous music replaced by the gentle chirp of crickets. At the edge of town, the small schoolhouse is a beacon of hope, its windows dark now, resting before another day of learning. And in the marshal's office, which is no longer just an office, but a home, a single lamp burns, casting a warm, golden glow. The gun is in the drawer, the Bible is on the shelf. The ghosts are at peace. The story of the stoic lawman and the preacher's daughter, a tale that began in murder and grief, has found its quiet, final chapter, not in the grand violence of the frontier myth, but in the simple, courageous, and enduring act of two people choosing to build a life together.